there, and welcome to the I Went to Darlington and All I Got Was a Cold edition of Running Wide Open with Joe VanHoose. I'm Joe VanHoose. That's right, I was up there at Darlington Raceway last weekend. And you may be asking yourself, how come I'm watching this a day later than I usually do? Well, I brought back a cold from South Carolina. I was out yesterday, but we're back today and ready to bring you all kinds of racing entertainment, talk and such. Let's get right into it. It's time for the big deal. The big deal this week is how everything that was old is new again. Darlington Raceway celebrated its 60th year of racing with the return of the Southern 500, and what did it bring out? How about 17 cautions, a bunch of tore-up race cars, and a 50-year-old winner. Mark Martin wins for the second time in a month. He's 50 years old. He's clawed his way from the 30s in the points up to 11th position. He's in the chase if it started today. He's probably only going to get better, because after all, some fine wines do get better with age. Cheap wine and beer, however, go very bad. But I don't think Mark Martin's a cheap wine. He's 50 years old. He wins the Southern 500. Now, there was a lot of complaints from the drivers and some NASCAR riders out there. Darlington has changed, and it has, because it got repaved and it's a lot faster than it used to be. But that doesn't mean the girl isn't still too tough to tame. That's right, the lady in black, from what I counted, wrecked up 38 of the 43 race cars in the field on Saturday. So I'd say it's tougher than ever to get around that little racetrack. Now the series moves on to the All-Star race this weekend in Charlotte. There are no points. There's just a lot of pride and a whole lot of money. They'll race for $1 million to win on Saturday night, and you can check it out on Speed. That's going to wrap it up for Cup racing news and NASCAR news in general. Let's break it down for a little bit of local flavor. It's time for my 2 cents. I'm Joe VanHoose, and these are my 2 cents. So, we all know that Florida short track racing is in peril, mainly on the asphalt side, and especially exhibited through the late models in the state. They've been a dying breed, if you will, and it was never so apparent as it was on Saturday night at Columbia Motorsports Park up in Lake City, where longtime Florida short track racing promoter Don Nerone hosted the Don 100. That's right, Don Nerone hosted a name of a race and named after himself. Brilliant. He even put out this huge plea that the survival of the sport is at hand, that all the late model drivers need to show up at Columbia last Saturday night. Well, if that is really the case, write Columbia off and write Don Nerone off, and hell, you could almost write off Central Florida late model racing, because only 8 showed up, 4 finished, Wayne Anderson won, big surprise there. But how about this, Don Nerone? Instead of begging for cars to come out, maybe you should just treat the drivers who drive those cars a little bit better. Maybe if you had some of the foresight from 10 and 15 years ago when you started wrecking Florida racetracks from the East Coast to the West, maybe things would have worked out differently. Maybe Fast Car would still be around. Remember that one? Remember how you said you only wanted the 20 best late models around instead of, the 40 that were showing up? You only wanted the 20 best. Well, now you can't even get 10, and you've got no one to blame but yourself. I'm Joe VanHoose. That's my 2 cents, and this has been Running Wide Open. We'll see you next week.